Hello, everyone. Welcome to Union Public Library Presents Stretching Food Dollars and Through Meal Planning. I am very excited today to introduce Cecilia Gomez, who is a SNAP educator with the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. She has some handouts that I will pass on to you in a follow-up email along with her email in case you have questions. If you haven't signed up for the newsletter yet, please do. And just write yes in chat and I will be sure to get in touch with you or go to our website, www.upl.org. Okay, so thank you very much for coming. And Cecilia, you're on.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction and welcome everybody. Just like Debbie said, my name is Cecilia. I'm a SNAP nutrition educator with the Community Food Bank of New Jersey. And this is a lesson from our Just Say Yes to Fruits and Veggies program called Stretching Food Dollars. So we're going to be talking about how we can save money on healthy foods. And maybe, you know, if you celebrated Halloween this weekend and had a bit too much candy, this might be the push you need to make some healthy choices this week. So without further ado, I will get started. I just have a few introductory slides. So this is our Justice for All poster. It's just a non-discrimination notice that states that we do not discriminate against anybody for race, color, national origin, sex, religious creed, disability, age, political beliefs, or reprisal or retaliation for prior civil rights activity in any program or activity. So it's a mouthful, but it can be found on the USDA website if you would like to learn more about it. And I also have my welcome, which is just a little info on Just Say Yes to Fruits and Veggies. It is a free program that aims to support healthy living through the promotion of increased fruit and veggie consumption. It's funded by the New Jersey Department of Health. And if you're curious about the recipes or resources that JSY can provide for you, you can go to jsyfruitveggies.org. There's a lot of really wonderful information on there. And a little bit about the food bank. We provide food to several food pantries throughout the state. This year, especially, we have met increased need with increased food. We've reached about a million people this year, over a million people. So if you or somebody you know needs help accessing food, please go to cfbnj.org. We also have other resources other than food. We have a period program, a kids cafe. We have a job training program, and they're all really wonderful programs. So please just check us out if you're at all interested. We are here to help you. So let's get started. My icebreaker for today is, what are some foods you feel are expensive and some foods that you feel are inexpensive?
Everybody can unmute themselves if they want to.
Yes, go ahead. You could unmute yourself or you can use the chat, whichever is easier for you.
Well, I would suggest steak.
Definitely
It's very
steak.
expensive now.
Yes.
And I would suggest that pork may be a good alternative and less expensive if we're looking at the meats.
Okay. Yeah. So depending on the type of protein, it can be expensive or it can be a little bit inexpensive. So steak versus pork is a good point. And I see we have in the chat, fruits are so expensive, especially berries. Yes, that is a great point. Many fruits, especially berries, can be very, very expensive, especially when they are not in season. And we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And what about foods that are inexpensive? And that we also have seafood like lobster and shrimp. Absolutely.
The day-old stuff is inexpensive. You can buy like day-old bread and it's not so much money.
Right.
That's a good point. Yeah. So a lot of stores will have something like a manager special. And usually these are prepared foods that are very close to expiring. And they're still safe to eat technically, but they'll be extremely discounted. So always keep an eye out for that. So foods like bread can be inexpensive, maybe pasta, maybe some rice foods. What do we think? canned soups, depending. Yeah, so canned soups can also be very affordable. A lot of canned foods are affordable as well. And I just want to ask you, do you think that canned food is healthy? Do you think it's a good option for you?
Yes and no. You can always add like vegetables with it, and you have to look at the sodium content as well with those canned items. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes, that was a great answer. So it really depends on the food. You want to look at the sodium, you want to look at the ingredients, and always trying to add veggies to any food is an easy way to add some nutrition to your meals.
Mhm.
So unless anybody wants to add anything, I'm going to move on to the next slide. So let's say that you have $10 in SNAP benefits to spend on fruits and veggies. Which of these do you think you would buy?
And Cecilia, can you just tell us what SNAP benefits are?
Yes, absolutely. So SNAP is what we used to call food stamps. It's a supplemental nutrition assistance program is what it stands for. So it's essentially money that you spend on fruits and veggies provided to you by the government. And if anybody is interested in more information about SNAP, I can always connect you to some information from our resource access team who works more closely with signing people up for SNAP.
I think you could buy any of these things. But what I would choose to buy would be the fresh ones.
Right.
Okay, great. Yeah, so I think a lot of people would probably definitely go towards the fresh. So maybe the baby spinach, the strawberries, and the carrots. But we did mention earlier that strawberries are very expensive. So I think if I were trying to stretch out my $10, I would probably go for the frozen California blend, maybe the canned green beans, and probably the fresh spinach. Depending on the season, spinach can be pretty affordable. All right, so that was really just to get us brainstorming about how we could spend $10 in SNAP benefits. And it definitely can be a little bit difficult, especially when we consider the MyPlate. So who has seen this before? So this is what we replaced the food pyramid with a few years back. This was introduced in 2016. And I think it's a lot better because we don't eat off of a pyramid, right? We eat off of a plate. So this makes it a lot easier to visualize what a healthy plate might look like. We have 5 food groups. We have fruits, veggies, protein, grains, and dairy. And if you notice, there is something that stands out about this MyPlate. At least it does to me. Does anything stand out to you?
A larger serving of vegetables
Yes,
and grains.
exactly.
and
Great.
grains.
Right. So a larger serving of veggies, fruits as well, grains, and then protein is not as big as some people might have expected it to be. So this is because most people are getting enough protein in their diets, unless you're very, very active with lifting weights. You don't really need to increase your protein intake. What we're finding is that most people need to increase their fruit, veggie, and whole grain intake. So we like to say that half of your plate should be fruits and veggies at any given meal. So breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I'm sorry if you hear some footsteps in the back, that's my dog having some fun with his toys. But fruits and veggies on your plate at any meal. So for breakfast, what do you think you would do? What kind of fruits and veggies would you include for breakfast? Let's just brainstorm a little bit.
Melon?
And blueberries with some good old hot
Blueberries.
oatmeal. probably
Absolutely.
something.
Bananas, wonderful.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I think fruits are pretty common at breakfast. Maybe veggies, not so much. So maybe for a veggie dish, we could do some eggs with some spinach or mushrooms or peppers, right?
Okay.
Right?
Like
I-
as an omelet type.
Exactly, like an omelet, or maybe some scrambled eggs. Avocado toast is very popular now, right? You could always put some veggies on that too. Okay, and for lunch, it can be as simple as a salad with some tomatoes. For dinner, you could do a baked potato and maybe some fruit for dessert, right? Switching out maybe whatever it is that you enjoy for dessert with some fresh fruits. It's a really simple way to get more fruits and veggies in. And for grains, we mentioned whole grains. Whole grains do tend to be a little bit more expensive than refined grains, unfortunately. So whole grains is anything that contains the entire kernel of the grain. That's going to be things like brown rice, quinoa, whole grain bread. Your protein, we divide into two types. So we have our plant-based proteins and our animal-based proteins. This is where it gets a little bit easier to save some money. Your plant-based proteins tend to be a lot more affordable. So things like black beans, garbanzo beans, tofu, they're all high in protein and they only cost a couple of dollars compared to, buying chicken or steak. It's going to cost double that. So we like to suggest switching out your meat protein for a plant-based protein a couple times a week. It's really good for your health and it's going to be a lot easier on your wallet too. Dairy is it's a lot smaller of a portion size. We recommend getting about 3 ounces of dairy a day. And this includes your plant-based dairies as well, because they have been fortified with the nutrients that you need, the nutrients that you typically get from dairy, which are calcium and vitamin D. You can actually get a lot of calcium from your veggies as well. So dairy, we're not too worried about people's dairy consumption. Most people are getting enough in their diet. Any questions about the MyPlate? All right, wonderful. So let's get into the good part. How can we save money so that we have more money for fun stuff, right? For vacations or for treating ourselves, whatever it may be. Choosing fruits and veggies while they are in season. This is one of the easiest ways to make sure that we are getting the most bang for our buck and also the most nutrition out of our veggies. And I will go into detail for all of these in the next few slides. Looking for sales in your store circulars or your digital coupons. It's a big one. Planning your meals and creating a grocery list and actually sticking to it is another great way. Buying frozen or canned produce for items that are out of season. Buying in bulk. Buying generic brands, and buying unprepared foods. All right, so let's go into a little bit more detail. So we are very lucky to live in New Jersey. We have a very abundant growing season here. So, spring, summer, early fall, we have many options for fresh in-season produce. Of course, as we get closer to winter, don't have as many options, but luckily that's where buying frozen and buying canned comes into play. But while we do have these options, it's such a great choice to go for in-season fresh fruits and veggies, because not only are they more affordable, they're more nutritious because they are being grown right here in our state. So they don't have to travel all the way from Florida or California to get to your grocery store or your farmer's market, right? What happens is when we are getting our produce from out of state, it has to be picked before their peak of ripeness. That way they don't go out on the journey. And then also on that journey, they're losing a lot of nutrition. They're losing a lot of vitamins and minerals. So by the time it gets to us, it doesn't really taste as fresh because it never reached full ripeness, and it doesn't have as many vitamins and minerals. So that's why, if it's possible for you to get to a farmer's market during farmer's market season, it's a great option because you can go ahead and talk to the farmers right there and ask them what's growing in really well this year. What is your star crop for the season? And they'll tell you the apples are great or the peaches are great this season. So if we take a look, we are in beginning of November, And I see in the chat, we have a question. How can you tell when fruits and veggies are in season? There's really no way to tell from just looking at it, unfortunately. Usually, if you're in the grocery store, you can ask somebody that's working there. They should have that information for you, but it's always a good idea to have something like this with you, because it's going to you can look at it and you'll see right away what's in season. So the black bar represents where that growing season is for that fruit or vegetable. At the very top, of course, apples are in season throughout about mid-December, right? And then we also have cranberries. Cranberries are in season as well. Arugula, great for salads. That right there sounds like a great salad. Arugula, cranberries, and apples. Maybe a little bit of chicken breast for some protein, right? And we also have beets, bok choy, broccoli, and there is a second page to this sheet, and this will be shared with you as part of the handouts from this lesson. So if you notice, we don't really have a growing season between December and April. So really you want to be taking advantage of your fresh produce now and maybe freezing that so that you can have some throughout the winter for yourself. All right, and we mentioned planning ahead. This is very helpful, and I know we already asked some of you what you have planned for dinner tonight. Planning ahead is going to make it so much easier for you to know, for you to budget, really to understand how much you need to spend or how much you need to save that week. If you make your grocery list and actually stick to it, you'll be in and out of the grocery store so much faster than if you just walk in without really having a game plan, right? And also remember to bring your list with you, because there have been so many times where I write out my physical list and I leave it at home, and then I kind of have to do the guesswork. So a great tip before you even start to make your list is to actually look through your cabinets. Make sure that your cabinets, your refrigerator, your pantry is well organized, and you can kind of have a clear view of everything that you have in stock, so that you don't go to the grocery store and accidentally buy double or triple of something that you already have at home. So planning your meals ahead of time, making your grocery list, it's an easy way to save more time and more money. And of course, looking for promotions. Who doesn't love a good sale? Especially with the holidays coming around, I find that a lot of grocery stores do come out with more sales. So always just take a look at the circulars. They'll usually have it by the front of the store, and you'll be able to see really what kind of produce is on sale that day. And you can always try to base your meals for the week around that as well. And that's going to help you get a more variety of fruits and veggies in your diet as well. So we always say that we want to eat the rainbow of fruits and veggies, not of Skittles, but of fruits and veggies, because actually every color of fruit and veggie is associated with a different vitamin, mineral, and antioxidant. So spinach is great for you, but we don't want you to just eat spinach all day, every day. You also need carrots and sweet potatoes, right? Because they have different vitamins and minerals. So speaking of carrots, we're going to take a look at the unit pricing on these different carrots. So let's try and match the price to the form of carrot. So A is a whole carrot. Looks like we're buying it in bulk. Do you think it's $1, $3.49, $1.09, or $2.50?
I would say either $1 or $1.09.
All right, so either $1 or $1.09 for the whole carrot. Now, what about the canned sliced carrots?
They could be as much as $2.50. That seems a little high, but
Okay, so maybe $2.50. And then our last option is a frozen crinkle cut carrot. What do we think? So I think we really only had $3.49 left as an option. Is that? Yeah, so that sounds correct. All right, so let's take a look.
It does, because they're cut a certain way and everything. I mean, you have to pay for all of that. too.
Exactly. That's a really good point. So let's take a look. So it seems like the
Wow.
whole carrots were actually $3.49. The can was $1.09, and the
Well, that is
frozen
5
was
pounds.
$1. Exactly. So that was a little tricky because the weight of these is where really we start to see the prices change. We're getting 5 pounds of carrots for just 70 cents per pound for the whole carrot. For the sliced carrot, we're getting a 15.5-ounce can for $1.13 per pound. Now, this is where we got to weigh the pros and cons a little bit, because it's going to be so much easier to already have the carrots cleaned and sliced for us, right? But we're saving so much money if we buy the whole carrot and do it ourselves. So I'm glad you brought that up, because typically the more work that a store or a manufacturer is putting into a product, more expensive it's going to be. And that doesn't just apply to fruits and veggies. It's the same for your protein foods. So if you buy hamburger patties, you're probably going to spend a bit more and get a little bit less than if you had just bought ground beef, right? So this was more so to just make sure that we're taking a look at the unit price and considering buying in bulk. So buying the 5-pound bag of carrots versus the can of carrots. So this is where you also have to consider being able to freeze your food. So either freeze your food or make sure that you would be able to eat all of the food in that week. Or maybe if you have a family member nearby, you can buy in bulk and share with them. And that's going to make sure that we're not risking any food waste as well. So the unit price is the price per unit, just as it sounds. And we have to make sure that we're taking a look at how much food is in the container, the weight of that product, because that's what's going to give us the price we pay at the register. So buying canned and frozen produce, I wanted to ask you earlier how we feel about canned and frozen produce, because I think a lot of people believe that fresh is best, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with fresh produce. It can be a much better option for taste, texture, and nutrition depending on the seasonality. But when we don't have that much growing in season, or our favorite fruit or veggie is out of season at the moment, that's where we look to canned and frozen produce, because canned and frozen produce is picked and canned or flash frozen at their peak of ripeness. So we're not picking them before they're ripe. We're waiting until they get to their best stage of taste, texture, and nutrition, and then we're immediately preserving them. And as long as we're taking a look at the ingredients list and making sure that they're not being packed with any preservatives or sugary syrups or extra ingredients, they are a great option. With your canned produce, we mentioned earlier, making sure that we're looking at the sodium or looking for labels that say low sodium or no salt added. For your canned fruits, you want to make sure you have to look more at the sugar. So making sure that they're canned in either their 100% fruit juices or their water, or just water, because a lot of times they are packed in very heavy syrups, and that's where we're getting more sugar and more calories than if we had just gotten the fruit in their juice or in their water. And also with your frozen produce, there are some that come maybe in a sauce, or maybe they come with cheese or in a meat sauce. There are a lot of frozen foods that come as a whole meal now. This is where we also have to be a little bit careful and just make sure that we're not getting too much saturated fat or cholesterol or sodium from those foods. Ideally, the only ingredient in your frozen food would be that one fruit or veggie. So we have that as an example here. These are frozen strawberries, and all it says is on the ingredients is strawberries, unsweetened, frozen. Dried produce is also a good option. But again, just making sure that we're not looking at the sugar too much. We're not getting any produce that has too much sugar. So for example, raisins tend to have a lot of sugar. Dried cranberries tend to have a lot of sugar. It's still okay if you enjoy it, maybe on your salads or as a snack. Just make sure that we're keeping an eye on that. Okay, and if we were in person today, I would have this as a hard copy for you to take a look at and fill out for yourself, but we're just going to go through it together. So when you're at home, do you make a grocery list and stick to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
I
Do
try
you
to
keep-
stick to it, yeah.
What was that?
I try to stick to it, as best as I can, because that's how you
Right.
can overspend when you go to these
Exactly.
stores. Mhm.
Exactly, yes. Do you keep your kitchen cabinets organized so that you don't buy what you don't need?
Mm.
Try to.
Yeah,
Okay, that's what matters, as long as we're
Yeah.
trying. And how about this one? Eating before we go food shopping.
That's a very good idea, because that's how you can overspend too. You be so hungry, like I
Right.
want this, I want this, I want that.
Exactly. So it's a good idea to maybe have a little bag of trail mix in your car or a banana on your table before you head out the door, just so that we're not walking around the grocery store hungry and going for all the snacks that we might not have chosen if we weren't hungry. So typically when you're hungry, you tend to go for something that's going to give you that instant satisfaction. So things like French fries, potato chips, cookies and crackers. And that's really, it's because we're not in a clear state of mind. We're hungry and we just want to fix that. So eating before going food shopping is a great idea. Also, of course, unless you have to buy a large amount of products, there have been studies that show that you tend to buy only what you need when you're using a basket compared to a shopping cart. So consider that too if you don't have a lot on your list. And do you watch for flyers and sales and compare prices among stores?
All the time.
yeah.
Wonderful. Another point on this is joining your store's loyalty program. So a lot of stores, such as I used to work at Wegmans, we had an app, and this is really handy. If you have a smartphone, you can download your store's app. You can make your grocery list right on there, and it'll tell you, if that product is in stock or if it's on sale. And usually, if you log all of your purchases in the app, it will start to take note of the products that you buy. So you'll get a notification when it's on sale, or you'll get a coupon for this food that you buy very often. So that's something to consider too. Okay. And I do want to highlight a recipe for you today. So this is, I'm sorry, my screen is a little moody right now. So this is a pasta with beans. So I mentioned always taking into consideration doing a plant-based protein for dinner. And this is one way to do that. So beans are a great protein because they're high in fiber. And when you have that combination of protein and fiber, that's going to really stabilize your blood sugar and your hunger levels. So that's going to keep you fuller longer, which helps to maintain a healthy weight. Fiber is also very important for maintaining healthy cholesterol levels and lowering high levels of LDL cholesterol, and even for preventing some diseases. So fiber actually works as kind of like a scrub brush through your digestive system to flush out your toxins, which is going to keep your immune system working as well as possible, and preventing those chronic diseases. So this is an easy recipe and very affordable too, because we mentioned pasta is very affordable and canned beans are very affordable. So all you're going to need for this is 2 tablespoons of oil, 3 garlic cloves. If you're like me and you really like garlic, then maybe do 6. I like my food very garlicky. A can of diced tomatoes, 28 ounces, 1 head escarole. And the great thing about all of our recipes is that they are very easily modified. So if you don't like escarole, you could do spinach or kale or another veggie that you like. 2 cups of cooked red kidney beans. I would use canned for this just because it's easier. But again, watch the sodium and rinse it really well before you use it until your water runs clear. 2 cups of pasta shells, preferably whole grain if you have it. And of course, salt, pepper, and whatever other seasonings you enjoy. So I also have a video just to see how this comes together. Let me just make sure that my sound is shared and I'll go ahead and play it for you.
That's pretty easy to figure out how you do that. You have to have the
This
pasta
is a quick and
ahead
easy
of time.
JSA recipe, pasta with beans. For this recipe, you'll need vegetable oil, minced garlic, diced tomatoes, chopped greens, beans, pasta, and salt and pepper to taste.
Yeah, there's your kidney.
Start by chopping the greens into bite-sized pieces. In this video, I'm using Swiss chard, but you can use any cooking greens that you have on hand. This includes spinach and collard greens. To clean your chopped greens, you'll want to submerge in clean water. Lift greens out of the water to leave the dirt behind. If using a salad spinner, spin a few times. If not, pat them off with a dry paper towel. Chop the stems of the greens into bite-sized pieces and place aside. Use the flat side of the knife to loosen the garlic skins. Carefully mince the garlic and place aside.
That would be a lot for me.
Add 2 tablespoons of oil to medium heat, then add garlic and the chopped up stems from your greens. Cook a few minutes until garlic and stems begin to soften. Add your greens and season with salt and pepper. Add canned tomatoes with liquid and cook. Simmer for 5 minutes. Uncover and stir. Add beans, cover, and cook 5 minutes. Add pasta and season with salt and pepper. And just like that, you've made a delicious dish. Top with cheese and enjoy.
Okay, so I really like this recipe because it's so easily modified to your taste, but at the same time, it's packing a lot of nutrition. We have our fiber, we have our protein, we have our carbohydrates, and also the tomatoes for some vitamin C. Keep your immune system running nice and sharp for this fall season. Any questions or comments about anything that we talked today? If you do end up having some questions, my email will be shared with you. You could also go to choosemyplate.gov. We have a lot of really fun activities about the MyPlate on there. And don't forget that even though physical activity is not a technical part of the MyPlate, it is very important because we don't expect anybody to have a perfect diet and eat all of the right foods all of the time, which is where physical activity comes in to really help balance everything out and to keep you feeling strong and energized.
So I just want to take a quick moment, Cecilia, and tell people about our program newsletter. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll hear about programs. Next week, we're doing a poetry night, and we're having Broadway during World War II showed a lot more stories about what was going on at war and what it was like during World War II. Then the movies tended to romanticize it. And we just have all kinds of holiday programs coming up. We have lots and lots of programs. The best way to find out about them is to go to our website, www.uplnj.org, or our newsletter. Sign up for a newsletter, just write yes in chat, or you can sign up on that website, www.uplnj.org. I'm going to stop recording now, but first, thanks, Cecilia. And then people may feel that they'd like to ask questions. So for the tape, thank you, Cecilia, very much. And now I'm going to stop the recording.
About the bean.